I'm going to ask everyone to go ahead and take your seats, please. We're going to let our volunteers sit down as well. It's not loud. I'm getting feedback that the mic is not loud enough. I'm gonna look that way. Nod if you can hear me in the back. Oh, good. Everybody good? All right, if we'll just come on in and take our seats. We appreciate everyone's time and coming together here so much, so thank you. So I'm Hillary Reek. I am fortunate to be the chair of the board of the Jewish Federation. And thank you all for being here tonight. I'm so grateful that we can be here and finally celebrate something that we've been praying for. And I'll probably get emotional, so I know we all are, and you'll forgive me. Being able to celebrate the return of the living hostages back to Israel. So many of us, I'm sure in this room, have been glued to the news and our phones and watching the extraordinary reunions and the emotional videos, the families running into each other's arms, tears, hugs, relief. The moments that we get to see have brought us so much hope. But with that hope also comes deep sadness for those who didn't come home, and those families still waiting for their loved ones to be returned for burial. Tonight, we hold both feelings, joy and heartbreak, as we come together for peace. This evening also carries special meaning on the calendar. Today marks Israel's new National Day of Remembrance of October 7th. Designated by the government of Israel to fall annually on the 24th of Tishrei. So tonight, as we gather, we join Israel and Jewish communities around the world in remembrance and solidarity. I want to thank our incredible Jewish Federation team for all of the hard work they do and every day, but to bring us together as a strong Jewish community is of the utmost importance to Charleston Jewish Federation. A big thank you to our corporate sponsor, Eureka Howe and Krell, PA, for supporting tonight's event. And our amazing guest, you'll get to meet shortly. We're so lucky to have you. Thank you for sharing your stories and your strength. The release of the hostages is something to celebrate, but it should have never happened. No one should ever be targeted because of where they live, who they are, or the faith they practice. Tonight, we'll hear from two incredible people who lived through unimaginable experiences simply because they're Jewish. Their courage reminds us of why we can't stay silent and why our community must keep showing up, speaking out, and educating the world. Fighting hate and anti-Semitism through education is one of the top priorities of the Charleston Jewish Federation. With all of you by our side, we'll keep working towards understanding, kindness, and peace, because that's what our community stands for. Again, thank you all so much for being here, and thank you for the support of the Charleston Jewish Federation. Thank you.
Please join us for the Star-Spangled Banner.
Please rise.
I
may be seated. In a week that has held such joy, as we've heard, it's balanced by deep sorrow. We watched those 20 living hostages reunited with their families, with their nation, and our hearts soared, and we feel keenly the knowledge that there are so many more who will never have such a reunion. We think of those who were brutally murdered on October 7th. We think of those who were killed in captivity, including those whose bodies we still pray will be returned to their loved ones. And we think of those who have died in the fight to bring them home and to free Gaza from Hamas. We hold the memory of all of them in our hearts, and we pause for a moment of remembrance. We invite you to rise as you're able for our memorial prayer.
El male rachamim shochen bamromim Hamtze menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina Im kedoshim utehorim kezohar harakia mazhirim lenishmot yakirenu shehalchu leolamam Bal harachamim yastirem beseter knafav leolamim Vitzror hachayim et nishmatam Adonai hu nachalatam V'yanuchu b'shalom al mishkavam v'nomar Amen.
May God remember the souls of those slain for their devotion to you, all who died al Kiddush Hashem, our brothers and sisters in every generation, killed because they were Jews, the ones who suffered fire and the ones who suffered water to sanctify your name. May God remember those in our own time, killed in acts of hate, acts of terror against the Jewish people, against the Jewish state, and against human beings of every nation. Though holiness was diminished by their deaths, may their memories be turned to good, their legacies of sanctification of your name. Let us honor their memory by word, by deed, by acts of hope and kindness. Let us honor them through the study of history and by working against bigotry and bias. As we cling to their memory, so may God embrace their souls and give them everlasting peace. And together we say, Amen. You may be seated.
הרחבה הזאת של המסיבת טבע, זה הרחבה שהכי מכילה את האושר ובאה לייצג אהבה עולמית.
אנשים שמחים, חיוכים בכל מקום.
אנשים יפים, אווירה של אהבת חינם ושל חופש הביטוי.
זה המקום הכי מוגן, זה המקום הכי קדוש, זה המקום הכי טהור.
אושר, גדול.
נכנסו לנו לבית, לנשמה, ללב.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ta'ir Judajay, and I'm the CEO of the Charleston Jewish Federation. Thank you all for joining us this evening as we commemorate the second anniversary of October 7th. Can people hear me better now? Okay, all right, give a nod. Okay, great. I have the honor of moderating today's conversation with our two guests. 2 years ago, a day that was meant really for life's simple joys was torn to shreds. The air, crisp and golden, just like it is outside here in Charleston, was shattered by the echo of terror. It was a day of pure, unadulterated evil. We saw 1,185 souls extinguished, their lights stolen from the world. 340 of those were brutally murdered in the deadliest event in music history at the Nova Festival, the clip we just saw. 251 people, our brothers and sisters, were ripped from their homes, from their breakfast tables, from their beds, from their arms of the loved ones, and dragged into a suffocating darkness. In an instant, our sense of safety was gone. The world we knew broke into 1 million pieces. Yet amid this horror, we have seen light. We have witnessed strength and heroism that defies logic. Tonight, we are honored to have two remarkable individuals share their stories of survival and resilience with us. Herschel Greenblatt is a Holocaust survivor whose parents were resistant fighters. He was born in the Priest Grotto caves of the Ukraine in 1941. Natalie Sanandaji, an Iranian Jewish woman born in the United States, was visiting Israel on October 7th and survived the Nova Music Festival attack. Natalie and Herschel, thank you both for being with us tonight. Natalie, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Hi, everyone.
My name is Natalie, and can you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay, good. Prior to October 7th, I was just a typical American Jewish girl, but as the daughter of an Israeli mother, I've been going to Israel almost every year my entire life, and October of 2023 was no different. I went to Israel for a friend's wedding, and I extended for the holidays to be with friends and family, and I found myself at the Nova Music Festival. So me and 3 friends, we decided to go to the festival. I was the only American in the group. And prior to going to the festival, because of security reasons in Israel, usually you don't get the location of these kinds of festivals until a few hours before it starts. And I remember we were packing our things and we're so excited and we're getting ready. And we get the location and I see that the festival is very close to Gaza. And I remember looking at my friends and thinking to myself, you know, I know there's people who live in that area. I know that it's fairly safe, but I've never been to that part of Israel. And I kind of asked my friends, you know, what do you guys think? Do you guys think it's safe? Should we be worried? And they kind of laughed at me. They were like, Natalie, where were you yesterday? And I said I was hiking in the north. And they said, yeah, what were you on the border of? And I said, well, I was on the border of Lebanon. And they said, exactly, anywhere you go in Israel, you're going to be surrounded by some enemy who doesn't like us very much. But that's just the reality of living in Israel. And I brushed it off and I figured, you know, they're right. And we go down to the festival and we get there at around 1 a.m. And we danced for a few hours. And then my friends decided that they wanted to rest at our campsite, which was on the festival grounds, and wake up for the sunrise, which is supposed to be the most exciting part of the festival. You know, you're dancing in the dark and you're waiting for this beautiful sunrise. And we rest at around 3:30. And instead of waking up to the sunrise music, we woke up to the sound of rockets. And the way we were woken up was very surreal. We were sleeping on camping chairs, and one of our friends from our campsite was on the dance floor when the first rockets were intercepted. And she wanted to come and wake us up and make sure we were alert to the situation. So she came over and she was very calm and she kind of nudged us awake and she was like, hey guys, Boker Tov, good morning. And she was smiling. And she said, you know, I just wanted you guys to know a few rockets were intercepted overhead, but it's fine. It's normal for the area that we're in. It's also a holiday. We know that our neighbors love to disrupt our peace on the holidays. It's probably just gonna be a few rockets and the party's gonna continue, nothing to worry about. Just wanted you guys to be awake. And I always tell people, you know, imagine a festival, a music festival happening anywhere else in the world. And imagine rockets are intercepted over people's heads as they're dancing. Now imagine them reacting in such a calm manner. That simply wouldn't happen. But unfortunately for Israelis, this is their reality. This is something they go through on a semi-regular basis. So my Israeli friends, they truly believed that maybe the party would continue, that maybe it would just be a few rockets and everything would be okay. But I started counting the rockets, and first it was 5, and then it was 10, and then it was 15, and then it was 20. And eventually the festival security asks everyone to please pack up their things and evacuate the premises. And we head to our cars, and we start trying to drive out, but we're in bumper-to-bumper traffic. And as you saw in the video, there was this road with all these cars pulled over. After a few minutes of driving, the festival security starts yelling at everyone to pull their cars over and get out of their cars and start running. And at this point, we couldn't understand why they would tell us to run from rockets. It didn't make any sense. But we figured, you know, they have our best interests at heart. They must know something that we don't know. So we pull our car over, and we're sitting in the car for a few moments confused, and that's when we hear the first gunshots. And right away, as you hear the first gunshots, you understand that there's terrorists on foot, and they're close by, and they're armed. And we opened our doors, and we started running, and people were running in every direction. And nobody knew what direction was the direction of safety. And I got asked a lot how I knew what decisions to make in those moments to save my life. And it was a very hard question to answer, because the answer is that nobody knew what decisions were the right decisions. And a few months into the war, I spoke at a vigil in Columbus Circle, and a man came up to me. And he said that he had seen many of my interviews, and he saw how much I struggled to answer this question. And he said that he himself had interviewed many Holocaust survivors in his life, and that when Holocaust survivors were asked in life and death situations how they knew what decisions to make to save their life, they coined a term called a choiceless choice. And basically the meaning of this term is that in these life and death situations, you don't have much time to assess which decision might be the safer decision, which one might save your life as opposed to getting you killed. But you simply have to make a choice in that moment. And that really perfectly described every decision me and my friends made while running from the Hamas terrorists. They were all choiceless choices. And for 4 hours, we made constant choiceless choices until finally a very brave man from a nearby town came to rescue us. His name was Moshe Sati, and he drove from the safety of his town towards all of this chaos on that day to save the lives of innocent people he didn't even know. And as soon as he picked us up and drove us to his town and dropped us off, he turned right back around to go save more lives. And because of that, it took me about 3 months to track him down and be able to thank him. And when I finally met him, I found out that him and his son on that day drove back and forth from their town to the festival grounds for about 8 or 10 hours, risking their own lives over and over again to save other people. And they saved about 300 to 400 lives that day. So it's thanks to Moshe Sati that my story had a happy ending. But today we're here to remember all those that weren't as fortunate as I was. And I just want to thank you guys for being here and for listening to my story and for taking the time to remember all those beautiful souls that we lost. So thank you.
Thank you. And Herschel, can you tell us a little bit about your survival story? Can you hear me okay now? Oh, there you go. Can you hear me okay? Can you tell us a little bit about your survival story?
My survival story basically is because of two people. My father, Abraham, my mother, Manya. My father from Lublin, Poland, the youngest of 16 children. And he was the only one that survived. He was in resistance when the war started in the city of Lublin. Basically went underground trying to survive. Militarily, they didn't have anything to really fight with. Their survival was to try to get food, medical supplies, try to keep themselves alive. And you know, everywhere he turned, the Nazis were there in the city of Lublin, which was a very, very important city to the Nazis. My dad found out after a couple of months that he was being hunted, that if he was caught, of course it would be probably certain death. So in late November of 1939, my dad decided to leave his home, and when he did, escaped across the border into, at that time, of course, it was Russia. That was the last time he saw any of his family alive. Like I said, he was the youngest of 16. Most of his siblings were girls. There were 3 sets of twins in his family. He crossed the border, and about a month and a half later, he found himself near the city of Kremenchuk, which is a industrial type city, kind of right now it's right in the middle of Ukraine. There was a fairly large Jewish population also, and my mother, who was also the youngest of 5 children. She had 2 older sisters, 2 older brothers. Her brothers were at the time, she was 18, At the time, they worked with her father. He had a men's store of some sort, and but both her sisters, in 1932 or 1933, left for Israel as part of a Zionist movement. They went to a kibbutz and started a life of in Israel, and so thankfully I do have family, cousins in Israel. My mother was also at 18. I'll describe. She was. I don't think she ever got to be 5 feet tall. I don't think she ever weighed more than 105 pounds. But ladies and gentlemen, there was never, ever a stronger person in how she accomplished what she did is unbelievable. She was also in resistance against the Russian police, the Russian people, who at the time hated the Jews and persecuted the Jews just as much. My father eventually met up with her group, and they had a very, very interesting hiding place. Not far outside of the city of Kremenchuk, there are hundreds and hundreds of underground subterranean caves. And this is where they hid. This is where they would hide and try to survive. Again, trying to do what is good for the Jewish community. And of course, as he's 19, she's 18, and my mother is very, 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 was a beautiful lady, and I have a granddaughter that looks just like her. So they fell in love, and in August of 1940, they married. And about 9 months later, unfortunately, my mother went into labor, but she was underground in one of the caves. So I had the great fortune of being born in a cave in Ukraine, spent the first 8 or 9 months, and of course, after the invasion of Germany against Russia, who at the time they were allies, and Hitler, Operation Barbarossa, and one unfortunate afternoon in late August of 1941, I was just a few months old. Both my parents were out for supplies or something, and they came upon a group of German soldiers, Russian soldiers, and it was a very small, like just kind of a off-the-cuff fight. It wasn't that big of a, but unfortunately a vehicle blew up, and as my mother was hiding behind some rocks or vegetation or whatever, a piece of shrapnel from that vehicle found its way into my mother's upper right leg. She was very, very badly wounded. My father had to get her treatment as quickly as he could, which was about 30, 40 miles away. He decided just to leave me, hoping that when they got back, I would be still alive. It took about 3 weeks, and they did come back. My mother was on crutches, bandaged very heavily. Many, many times, I saw that scar. I mean, it was, she, for the rest of her life, she suffered unbelievably. And my parents decided that their contribution to whatever was going on was not going to be, here we have a 8, 9-month-old child. She's wounded, so they escaped further east into a town called Krasnar, where there was other Jewish families, about 20, 21 Jewish families. My mother had a list of most of the families, and they were hidden by some righteous non-Jewish farmers. My mother would go and work and clean houses and do whatever she could, just so they would let us, during the winter, sleep in their basements or whatever. My dad took a job with the Russian army in one of their camps. He decided he wasn't Jewish. Took a job, and everything was okay. And but in March of 1943, I mean, we were there for a while now, and in March, because the Nazis never got that far east. So my dad made a big mistake, decided he would work in the bakery of this camp, and he decided that he was going to take a loaf of bread back home to his family. He hid it under his coat, and he was caught by the Russian police. And in March of 1943, my dad was imprisoned by the Russians for stealing food. Unfortunately, my mother had no idea what happened. In the years growing up, my dad never, ever, ever talked to me about what happened. Everything that I learned, other than the research that I have done in the last few years, is what I got from my mother sitting, at the kitchen table after Hebrew school, and she's telling me about, what happened. So I got most of my family history from her. Basically, my dad suffered tremendously. He, ever since, came here. But so she had no idea where he was or if he was still alive. But a month later, on April the 14th of 1943, my mom gave birth to my sister Ann. So from April of 1943 till late September of 1945, my mother was on her own, on one leg. She was constantly in the most unbelievable pain. I could just see it in her face, but I could also see the strength in her to make sure that her children survived, as thousands and thousands and thousands of other Jewish mothers did during that time. In September of 1945, fortunately, my dad was released from prison by the Russians, and we were able to actually reunite because my mother made the smart thing to do. She never left that area. She stayed put. And there was about 22, 23 other families, and my dad kind of saw the writing on the wall after the war because life under communism, life under the, Stalin was not going to be much better for the Jews than under the Nazi regimes. So in late September, early October 1945, he and two other men were able to get a hold of a couple of cattle cars and a train engine and a trek of escaping into the American zone into a DP camp, displaced persons camp, outside the city of Salzburg, Austria, called Beth Bialik. And that approximately 1,500 miles, because we had to only travel under darkness, and we couldn't even get out. Now, I'm already 5 years old, so that trip I remember. I remember the unbelievable stench because we couldn't get out to go to the bathroom. Food, whatever was on the side of the railroad track. I sat in the far, if you look into the cattle car, I sat in the left-hand corner, and there's two elderly gentlemen sitting next to me. I'm sitting next to them, actually trying to keep warm because it was already getting cold. It was already into October. And one morning, as I woke up, I saw my dad wrapping these two elderly Jewish men in a burlap sack and putting their bodies by the side of the railroad track. They were in their 90s. They were trying, So we finally made it to Austria. A very cold night in late November 1945. My dad hands me, he was carrying me because as a 5-year-old, my mother said I weighed about 21, 22 pounds. Very, very, very ill. The American Army nurse told my parents that she didn't think that I was going to make it, but they were going to do the best that they could. It was the Army, it was the American Army medical people that saved hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that survived, that made it, but it took a year. It took a full year for us to get back to health. And also my little sister Ethel was born in the DP camp of Austria. We were transferred to another camp about 15 miles away called Hallein, which ironically during the war was the headquarters of the SS in Austria. But it was a smaller camp, and it was one of the few camps that was 100% Jewish. We spent 6 years in that camp. It was easy, but the thing about it is we didn't have the wherewithal of just living. My dad, went underground. He started a black market group and we wanted to go to Israel. That wasn't going to happen. We were told we could sit in that camp for another 8 or 9 years before we were allowed to go into Israel, because if you got to Cyprus, that was as far as you were going to get. So, and my mother had relatives there, but we wanted to go very badly. But my mother made the decision, and she told me that she felt that she could help her sisters better from the United States than she could. So, thanks to President Truman, of course, who signed the Immigration Acts, and we applied. The process took us almost 6 years. And the eve of Kol Nidre of 1949, we got our papers. November the 16th of 1950, we board the USS General Belau out of Bremenhofen in Germany. 10 days later, early in the morning, the night before Thanksgiving, my dad woke me up, took me up on deck, and of course, I got to see the Statue of Liberty. I was already 9 years old, but I had a feeling of, because my life was such a turmoil in my sisters and my mother's. I mean, she suffered so unbelievably, and so we get on a train for Atlanta, Georgia. We didn't have any family here, so. We had a wonderful sponsor when we came to the United States. I was very, very lucky. I was put in the 3rd grade, and I had the most wonderful young Jewish teacher. Her name was Frances Fitterman, who brought me back to life. And my dad went into bought a grocery store, and my dad was very, very close friends with Dr. King. And for years and years and years, he fought against racism, anti-Semitism. And I grew up in Atlanta and became a typical teenager, married a wonderful young lady from Atlanta, and sitting right there, 61 years now. And so.
Thank you. And let me,
and about 10, 12 years ago, I decided to speak out. I decided it was time for me to put our family story out there at the Jewish Museum in Atlanta, and with the help of my granddaughter who brought me here.
Thank you. But let me stop you here, because that actually leads us to Natalie. Can you share with us how the two of you met?
Yeah. So should we go back to the picture of me and Hirsch, or it's fine? I guess it was less than a year after October 7th.
Yes.
I got to go on my first march, the March of the Living, and I was brought to speak. I was brought with a delegation of other survivors from October 7th. some from the kibbutzim, some people who were families of current hostages who today, thankfully, some of them are home, most of them are home. And I had the honor of coming to speak in front of students, and the idea was kind of bringing survivors of two generations together to speak to these younger generations, to kind of make the story of what happened during the Holocaust more relatable to the younger generations, and to almost show them that, you know, this can happen again, and that's why we have to stick together, that's why we have to support each other, that's why we have to remember, and like we say, never forget. And I think it was the first or the second night, I was asked to speak to a group of students during dinner time.
Yeah.
And we were in the same room, and we were speaking to the same students, and we had the honor of meeting, and Hirsch and I clicked right away. And we sat outside after dinner talking for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then I had the honor of going March to Living again and seeing Hirsch once again, the second year in a row. So me and Hirsch had the opportunity to share that moment together of doing the march together, and it was really incredible.
It is incredible that the two of you, generations apart, both experienced tremendous trauma and horrific events, for you to meet and form this relationship with one another. Natalie, can you share with us, was this the first time you visited Europe and the concentration camp on the March of the Living?
Yes. Yeah.
What was it like for you so soon after October 7th to go to such an experience like the March of the Living?
I mean, first of all, it was something I could have never imagined. Like, growing up, when you hear the number 6 million Jews, it's hard to actually picture it in your head. And then when you get to the concentration camps and you see how large they are, I remember just thinking to myself, I never pictured them in my head to be this big. And I didn't obviously even get to see all of them. And it really made it all so much more real to me, like the number, the amount of people that we lost. And being on the march also solidified another thing for me that to me is obvious, but it reminded me why I need to teach the rest of the world this. And what it solidified was the fact that anti-Semitism and the pro-Palestinian protests that happen aren't actually about Israel. People like to, ever since Israel became a state, they like to use the label of anti-Zionist, but not anti-Semitic. But we saw these protests at the March of the Living. Mm-hmm. And it just proved to me, if these protests were really about Israel and not about the Jews, you wouldn't have these protests at a march commemorating something horrific that happened before Israel even became a state. So just the fact that, like, I was on the march and then I see them there protesting us when we're just there marching about the Holocaust, not about Israel, not about October 7th, it just reminded me so much more why I need to continue speaking out. And even meeting Hirsch and meeting other Holocaust survivors at the march and having them tell me that that the new survivors need to carry that torch, that we need to continue to speak out. It just gave me that much more strength to continue speaking out for the past 2 years.
Hirsch, what was your first, when you met Natalie and the other survivors, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts was I just walked, when she was doing the presentation, and I was there with students and talking about, what happened and visiting these horrific places. And it happened so many, many years ago. And here it was again, it happened again. And I saw her telling her flight, and I just saw the strength in this lady here, young lady, being able to tell us. I mean, I cannot imagine the horrific feelings of running and trying to stay alive, with so many years after what happened to, I don't want to use the word 6 million. I tell my students, just it's one person 6 million times to try to keep, and just the strength. And so the idea of the continuation, the word hemshech, the continuation of the strength of the Jewish human spirit is still alive. I didn't want to. When I first started speaking, the last thing I wanted to do was stand in front of a group of students and tell them, "Oh, woe is me! This happened." This. I wanted to teach them that we as a people are strong. We as a people will survive, and telling them what their responsibility is. But I saw what I was trying to teach standing right in front of me. So it, again, and we just bonded, and then we sat and we talked, and we kind of, I think, cried a little bit together, and it just shows the spirit of the Jewish generations, the Jewish chutzpah that she had, and speaking out, and what she does now on a daily basis is so heartwarming to me to be on the same stage with her because of her strength.
Thank you. Natalie, what gives you strength?
I think a big part of what gives me strength is our community. Even at the Nova Festival, when I first went, I didn't know that many people. I knew just the 3 people that I was with there. And since then, every time I see a new movie that comes out about, a new documentary about October 7th, and I look at the people in the documentary, I know most of them at this point. And truly, what gives me strength to continue speaking out here in the States or anywhere else in the world is those moments when I go back to Israel. That's kind of the reset for me. Every time I go back to Israel and I'm surrounded by people that I know love me and that I know support me and that I know understand what I went through, and having that community time, that's what gives me the strength to continue speaking.
What gives you hope?
What gives me hope, of course, is the state of Israel. During the horrendous Holocaust, we didn't have the state of Israel. We didn't have the world could have cared less about us. The world said no to every time. Will you take European Jews into your? Nobody. The world said that we have our own problems. So now the state of Israel is what gives me the greatest hope, because we have a home. We have an army that will protect the state of Israel. It's such a strong feeling of happiness. I've been to Israel 2 or 3 times already. I was there for the 75th anniversary a couple of years ago, and the state of Israel was so alive, so happy. So it's such a place that is the world should learn from them, and it is the state of Israel is what gives me hope. Of course, it's not, but also the young students that I meet on a daily basis that have become so entrenched in their love of Israel. I get phone calls quite a bit from them, so they're there, and so that's it. The state of Israel is what gives me the hope and happiness.
There's actually a slide, if we can move. This is you dancing. Can you tell us a little bit about that picture?
This was taken at a synagogue in a town called Kochin in Poland. At the time during the war, Kochin was actually in Ukraine, and the synagogue, this particular town, had over 1,500 Jewish men, women, and children. And the Einstein group, the murderers, killing machines, came into the town of Cochin and demanded that they all meet together, bring all their valuables, and they were marched into the forest behind the synagogue, the Lafal Forest, and we marched about 1.5 miles into the forest, and there is a mound, a grave that's about 50 yards long and about 10, 15 yards wide, and under the mound are the bodies of 1,500 Jewish men, women, and children. The synagogue there represents, it's been rebuilt, and we go there to remember these unbelievable human beings. And when we get there, we talk about, and then it becomes euphoric, and we start dancing, and we start hugging, and it is unbelievable. And these unbelievable students pick me up in a chair, and, and I feel like, it's just the most unbelievable feeling of knowing that some of these students, there's a future that will carry on. Hey, at 84, I need somebody to be able to tell our stories, to tell our, and it was wonderful, raising me up in a chair, and I actually got to lay tefillin in the parking lot of Auschwitz on my birthday. So it was just being there with these students is unbelievable. I don't know how I can convey the unbelievable happiness that I have as a grandfather. I mean, I've got grandchildren now. I mean, other than my own, I've got grandchildren. I mean, I get phone calls daily from these kids. They're all over the country at different universities studying, and they're going to make a difference. And
They are.
it's unbelievable.
Yep.
This is the kid, it's the people, it's the kids, it's the total generation that I feel is now finally decided that they want to do something about it.
Yeah. And We Will Dance Again has become
Yes.
sort of
Yes.
the mission and the mantra of the Nova community. Natalie, can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think a big part of, the phrase "we will dance again," it's kind of this idea of we won't forget what happened, but we will continue the memory of those that we lost and dance in their honor.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's something that's hard for certain people to understand, especially with October 7th. It's such a sad day, but I remember last year on October 7th, on the 8th, I spoke at a memorial event in the city. And at the end of the event, we were supposed to go into the basement of the synagogue, and the DJ who played the last set at the festival, he was gonna go downstairs with us and play for us and play music. And I could tell that a lot of the audience felt weird about the idea of dancing on such a sad day. And I got on stage and I explained to them that the reason why we should dance is because all those who were killed on October 7th at the Nova Festival, they would want us to remember them for the happy, dancing people that they were. That's what they love to do most, not remember them for this horrible thing that happened to them. And that's kind of the idea of We Will Dance Again. If you go in Israel to any parties, like sometimes they'll throw parties, a lot of the families and friends who lost their kids or their best friends, they'll throw on their birthdays, they'll throw parties in their honor. And you'll see people dancing in their honor while crying at the same time. And it's kind of this idea of we're Jews, we're resilient, we will move on, but we won't forget. So we will continue to dance, but we'll also cry and remember them at the same time.
Beautiful.
talking about, at my wedding, you know, there was dozens and dozens and dozens of survivors, because that's basically the group that my father was part of. And they danced and they celebrated, and they had lost unbelievable the horror. It's the Jewish spirit. We're going to dance again. We're not going to let the world eliminate us. That's just it. This is why we dance. This is why we celebrate. This is why we have these holidays, and our families celebrate together. And it's the Yiddishkeit. It's a Jewish. It's a Jewish thing to celebrate, and you know, in the face of all the evil that has befallen us over the thousands and thousands of years. We are a resistant, resilient community that is not going to, you know, it's just not, we're not going to give up.
We're not going to give up.
And now we have the state of Israel to protect us.
We're not going to give up, and I can't think of a better note to end this conversation with that. And I just want people to see this picture, because if this isn't the essence of our Jewish people, an Iranian, Persian Jew, a European Holocaust survivor, sharing their stories of resilience and fortitude despite the trauma that they went through, here with us, here in Charleston, South Carolina, the first community, Jewish community in the United States. I think there's something very symbolic in that, and we are indeed an eternal people. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were wonderful.
You're wonderful. You ready?
I'm Leah Bagg, and I'm the Charleston Jewish Federation's Remember Project cohort leader. And I'm going to be reading a poem called In His Pocket by Rabbi Hannah Yerushalmi. It was written in 2024 after the first round of hostages were released. And I wanted to read this poem because I believe that Judaism teaches that it's okay, even important, to feel two things at the same time. And this poem captures that juxtaposition of feelings and the importance of having hope, even in dark times. The rabbis advised, keep two truths in your pocket. One should read, I am but dust and ashes, and the other should read, the entire world was created for me. An 8-year-old has something else in his pocket, confetti. Why? It's his emergency confetti, he says. During these raw days, he carries it with him everywhere, just in case there is good news.
Good evening. When we were making this program and planning this evening, I had volunteered to read a prayer for the return of the hostages, which put me in a unique situation earlier this week when we realized that we no longer needed, thank God, that prayer. And so instead, tonight, I offer a prayer of thanks for the return of the hostages. Master of peace, gracious and full of compassion, we give thanks for the greatness of your mercy. For you have redeemed our sons and our daughters from the captivity of the enemy. As it is written, God brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death and broke their bands asunder. We give thanks to you, O Lord our God, For you have bestowed wisdom and courage and steadfastness upon your creatures, enabling the work of human hands to restore our sons and daughters to their families and to bring the fallen to eternal rest. As your prophet said, the Lord our God has sent me to bind the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, liberation to the imprisoned, to comfort all who mourn. Have mercy on those captives who have returned to their homes. Heal their bodies and their souls from the blight of captivity and from the terrors of the night. Grant their families the strength to receive, to bind up and to make whole, and to be healed. For you are God, who heals the broken in heart and binds up their wounds. Answer us, O Lord, in your compassion, also for those who have not returned alive to our borders. Place within our hands the ability to bring them to burial and honor, and fulfill our sacred duty with love, with tears, and with broken hearts. For there is nothing more whole than a broken heart. May it be your will that the fate of the missing be made known speedily, and may it be fulfilled in us, as it is written, there was none missing, from small to great, neither sons nor daughters. And for our brothers and sisters throughout the land of Israel, from the Negev plain to the hills of Galilee, whose eyes weep even as their hearts rejoice, may it be your will that the word of your prophet be fulfilled among them and us. They shall build the ruins. They shall raise up the former desolations. Our God in heaven, cause peace to dwell on the earth and fellowship among your children. Strengthen your people Israel in faith and in hope, and cause joy and gladness to return to Zion. Let us say before you this day in thanksgiving together in one great voice. Blessed are you who releases captives. Blessed are you who restores children to their border. Blessed are you, the true judge, whose mercy forsakes neither the living nor the dead. Blessed are you who have shared of your wisdom with flesh and blood. Blessed are you who sets the boundary of the widow. Blessed are you who heals the broken in heart and makes peace upon the earth. Amen.
Regardless of what the world says, we know the Israeli army is the most moral and ethical army in the world. Please join us for the Mishaberach, the special prayer for the welfare of the Israeli Defense Force.
Yevareach ייתן אדוני את אויבינו, הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה. וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם, ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם, ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון, ויקוים בהם הכתוב, כי אדוני אלוהיכם, ההולך עמכם, להילחם לכם עם אויביכם, ולהושיע אתכם. ונאמר
There are so many reasons to be grateful to God for the miracle of the modern state of Israel. It's our homeland for almost 4,000 years, the home of our patriarchs and matriarchs. Whether or not we live there or we're exiled, it's always been our home. Our ancestors for centuries who could only dream and never actually got to see with their own eyes the land in person. While for us, all we got to do is buy a plane ticket. Granted, it's not cheap, but you hop on a plane, anybody can go to Israel. It's the holy land, it's the holy city, it's a place where Jewish tradition and spirituality are thriving and growing every day. And another reason for gratitude for the state of Israel is something Herschel just shared a few minutes ago. Like you said, in the Holocaust, what nation was ready to stand up and save the Jews? And today, everybody in the world knows if you attack Jews, there's a country, there's a land that's going to the ends of the earth to fight for every single Jew. If you're able to please stand for the prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Goalo, Barech es Medinas Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Kulatenu. Hagen aleh b'ras chastecha, ufros aleh sukat shlomecha, v'shlach orach v'abidcha l'rosheh sarav yotzeha. Zachenu kol beis Yisrael pekodnam b'chol artzos pezurehem, v'zolechem mehera komemius l'tzinu recha v'Yerushalayim mishkan shemecha, kakasu b'sar Moshe avdecha, im yeri dachacha b'ktzei hashamayim, misham yikabetcha Adonai Elohecha, u'misham yikachecha. V'achel v'aveinu li'hava u'l'yirah shemecha, v'shmor kol divrei sorasecha, u'shlach lanu mehera ben David Mashiach tikecha, lifdos mechake ketz yeshuasecha. Hofa b'hadar ganuzecha o kol yoshvei sevel artzecha, v'yomar kol ashin Hashem b'apo, Adonai Elohei Yisrael melech, u'malchuso b'kol mashallah. Amen Selah. And now in English.
We'll take a moment just to appreciate. We have also here Sarah and Eliezer Rosenfeld as we reflect on the resilience of our nation while we commemorate. They lost 3 family members to terror attacks, 2 sons and a brother in the Yom Kippur War. We'll recite this prayer in English for the state of Israel for continued strength, continued resilience. Our Father in heaven, rock and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, the initial sprouting of our redemption. Shield her beneath the wings of your loving kindness. Spread over her your shelter of peace, and send your light and your truth to its leaders, officers, and advisors. Remember our brethren, the whole house of Israel, in all the lands of their dispersion. Speedily bring them to Zion, your city, to Jerusalem, the dwelling of your name, as it is written of your servant Moses. Even if you are dispersed in the uttermost parts of the world, from there Hashem your God will gather you and take you. Unite our hearts to love and revere your name, to observe all the precepts of your Torah, and speedily send us your righteous Mashiach to the house of David, to redeem those waiting for your salvation. Shine forth in your glorious majesty over all the inhabitants of your world. Let everything that breathes proclaim Hashem, God of Israel, is King, and his majesty reigns over all. Amen. You may be seated.
A song of ascents. I shall raise my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help is from the Lord, the maker of the heaven and earth. He will not allow your foot to falter. Your guardian shall not slumber. Behold, the guardian of Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your guardian. The Lord is your shadow by your right hand. By the day the sun will not smite you, nor will the moon at night. The Lord will guard you from all evil. He will guard your soul. The Lord will guard your going out and your coming in from now unto eternity.
Almost every prayer ends with the word shalom, peace, because it's constantly on our lips, our prayer for peace in this world. Leave us alone. Let us live in peace. In fact, one of God's names is peace. Please join us together as we sing Oseh Shalom, the one who makes peace above. Please bring peace down to the world. Everybody together. Please rise. Let us face the Israeli flag and sing our national anthem, Hatikva, the hope for a better future. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening.